Okay, get this mic down. I'm mic'd, yes? Yeah, I just finished writing this because I actually did start it after that subway trip. So I just finished writing this 2 hours ago. So, it's going to be interesting. I do have it, yeah, right. I want to thank Sherry D, like everybody else here, because it is so magnificent to be here, and it's been 10 years. And I want to thank Bob Holman, because this really did come from this walk across the Brooklyn Bridge during the Lorca Festival, and how it wound up on the subway, I don't know, but it's about the subway. And for my fan club, no, I'm not reading Motherfucker tonight, but you can... But you can just sort of chant it, motherfucker, never mind. For those of you who don't get it, ask somebody else. Okay, so this is my subway piece. Okay. The N and the M. That's not the M, that's the N, that's not the N, that's the M, not the N, the M, not the N, the M, the M, the M. I'll hear to the iambic rhythm of the wheels, the heartbeat of my childhood, as I'll fly backwards on the train, watching the on-off of the tunnel lights as they flash by into the past, more than 40 years after leaving New York, and this is ridiculous. Not the N, but the M. This is ridiculous. Not the N, but the M. This is ridiculous. Wheels always gather words. But why these? They're not the trains I ever took. Not the N or the M or the R, the never, the maybe, the rarely, my brother calls them, the way they wind their way, screeching the curves through downtown Manhattan. The two of us are children of the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 5, to school and back every day, further afield. Children of the broken field running down the cars and through their doors, bodies first to left and then to right and over the gap to reach the final door, front or back, grab the handle and watch the lights. The tracks to the future are left behind, so why this? It's not the N, it's the M. As I start to fall asleep, start to dream to the rhythm, it's not the N, it's the M. Not the N, it's the M. My head leaning against the window. Then a whoosh, a rattle, a compression of air, a train going by, the off-on flashes of the lights, now faces, bodies in opposite windows. It's not the N, it's the M, not the N, it's the M, and I'm still not on either train. This is the F uptown from my brothers, the car size, the seat arrangement of the old IND, and the girl I see is on the F coming downtown, back to Brooklyn with one change. Even if the route is new, the line isn't, and it's the year I took that Brooklyn apartment right after I quit my $10 a week job organizing against the war. And that's who she is, that slight girl I'm watching. That's me in the same back-facing seat as I occupy now. Yes, it's the F for sure, and I'm on my way home from design class at Parsons. That's not the N, that's the M, not the N, that's the M. And it has nothing to do with the train at all. It's all about her, all about me. I know that now as I see her flying by, that young woman, that slight girl I once was, that slim package planted between my legs, upright and wrapped in brown paper, and there's 3 African-American kids just slipped into the seats that surround me. Though for sure I said black back then. It's 1967, and black is the tell it like it is challenge to the other slave trade, black of Negro. And that's not the N, that's the M, not the N, that's the M. And suddenly it's so clear that somehow I'm her and she's me, and I long ago lost a part of myself to that train, to riding there, and I know exactly why. as the three kids are looking at me, their eyes sparkling, that year the Panthers are already saying, power comes from the barrel of a gun, and they're not the first ones to reach out like that toward the place at the top of that package where the sharp sight has worked its way through the brown paper. All the students in my design class did that already, even the teacher reaching out as I slowly unwrapped it, and one of those kids leans toward me and whispers, 22. And I answer, no, 30. It's the British Enfield 30.1 caliber semi-automatic with the cut-down military stock and 6-round magazine, the one for the take an object and paint it design assignment, and I've been up more than 24 hours straight, and I know now exactly what the words mean. It's not the N, it's the M, it's not the N, it's the M, the M, the M, the M. It's not the story of the trains or of the gun I painted, but of what I had to do to obtain it. When my brother was 3 weeks drafted into basic training at Fort Gordon, Georgia, and I had to call him before I could get the rifle out of the hands of the NRA member. And by the way, this guy is the star of the motherfucker piece, if you guys remember him. This member of the National Rifle Association, my brother had left the gun with for safekeeping. The guy wasn't afraid I might use it to kill someone. He was terrified I might paint it up with peace signs and anti-war slogans. So there I am on the phone in that conversation only weeks before. 2 bouts of pneumonia later, my brother would be taken out of combat infantry training and put into armory. It's not the N, it's the M. To give me a reason to have painted not peace signs, but a wrap-around blue sky rifle full of Magritte clouds and no boundaries, as my brother's knowledge of guns probably saved his life, because even if he was sent to Vietnam the next year, he was in supply, not out on what my ex-combatant friends who organized at Fort Hood in Texas called search and avoid missions, though he surely smoked just as much dope driving his forklift. That's not the N, that's the M, that's not the N, that's the M, and there's my brother on the other end of the line when the operator finally gets through, and what he says isn't hello, or hi, Sarah, or what's happening, sis, but yes, sir. Yes, sir. He says, yes, sir. More than enough in 2 words to confirm anybody in their intention to paint a rifle and carry it through a subway. Enough to hear over and over, it's not the N, it's the M, it's not the N, it's the M. Enough to have painted those words themselves onto the brown paper and packing tape that wrapped that gun. That's not the N, it's the M, not the N, it's the M, not the N, the M. The message already there so that the gun would never have to be unwrapped. Because it wouldn't matter if I had painted the rifle at all, or if it was with G.I. Joes or the suicide note of the greatest of trickster poets, Vladimir Mayakovsky, his crash against the everyday of Stalinist life written in his own blood, or God bless America up one side and long live death, viva la muerte down the other, or without a revolutionary practice, there can be no revolutionary theory. Accompanied by without a revolutionary theory, there can be no revolutionary practice. And the infinity sign always over the breech, all that would count would be that the rifle should remain to speak its threat from under all that paper, because what the operator had said only moments before, that's not the M, N, that's the M. And I swear that it's true, she really said it exactly this way. That's not the N, that's the M, not the N, the M, the M, the N, the M. Even if who knows what could have made it so hard for that military man on the other end to hear it, to hear her, if it was just the static on an old line or his own desire to avoid having to get my brother. But the more she said Murphy, the more he heard Noonan. The more she said Murphy, the more he heard Nolan. The more she said Murphy, the more he heard Norman, until she just got tired and drawled out, "That's not Ayan, as in Nazi, that's Ayam, as in man." Not the N, but the M, not the N, but the M, not the N, but the M. And that's why I'm hearing it, because that girl's still me, and I'm still there in that seat, and the wheels are still pounding, not the N, but the M, not the N, but the M, and it's almost 50 years of napalm and white phosphorus and assault rifles and concentration camps and waterboarding and bunker buster bombs and IEDs and depleted uranium shells and drones and drones and drones and drones. And there's not one of us these years later has figured out how to do it, to move the world one letter back from the N of Nazi to the M of man. It's not the N, it's the M, not the N, it's the M, not the N, it's the M, the M, the M, the M, a man. Amen. The end. Thank you. Thanks.